believe it looks like it's working.
I'm just checking it. It's certainly logged, but it's not. Have you gone live?
I did click on the last one, said to go live, yes.
Yes. It's all good?
That's the port.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, members. Welcome to this meeting of the Council as trustee of the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund on Monday, the 16th of March. And I'd like to thank John for stepping in to substitute for the town clerk tonight. Do we have any apologies, John, received?
We do. We have apologies from Councillor Lynn Ripley, Councillor Martin Pennington, Councillor Nicholas Gray, and I think that is
And Councillor Tomlins has contacted me as
Councillor
well.
Tomlins. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda this evening? No? Okay, moving on. Okay, moving on to agenda item 3, we've got some minutes to approve from previous meetings. The first is attachment 3A, and that's to approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of STC as trustee of Sandwich Tollbridge Fund held on the 1st of December. Are there any comments from anybody on those minutes? If not, is somebody happy to propose those? Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Wiles. Who's proposed and who's seconded? I'll just sign those before we move on to the next one.
Mr. Mayor, apologies, you wasn't chair at that meeting. It should be Councillor Wild that
All right.
should sign those.
No, don't apologise. Do you want to sign those?
Sorry, can I just grab who's proposing?
Councillor Black
Thank you.
and Councillor Wiles seconded. And we vote on those. I assume we have got. Yeah. Any other votes?
Thank you.
Councillor Wiles supports that. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. The next set of minutes are the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of STC as trustee of Sandwich Tollbridge Fund held on the 15th of December 2025. Are there any comments on those?
Happy to propose recommendation.
Somebody have to second? Councillor Black. Councillor P. Carter. Proposing. And those are the ones for me to sign. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. The final set that we've been asked to approve are the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of STC as trustee of Sandwich Tollbridge Fund, which was held on the 20th of February 2026. Any comments on those?
We accept those ones.
We did. Apologies. Can we vote on this? Sorry, I'm trying to go at too fast a pace. I should do it more carefully. That's unanimous as well.
1%.
Oh, sorry,
I
apologies.
wasn't here.
Thank you.
I wasn't here, but I watched the video, so I'm happy to
Okay. And then the final set, as I said, is the meeting that was held on the 25th of February. Proposer, please, if no comments. Councillor Morehouse, Councillor Lack. Is there a comment?
No, I was going
To vote on that? And one abstention. And the rest are all green.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we've been asked at agenda item 4 to review the action order. There is only one outstanding action. Having seen the papers, I've been reminded it was for me to deal with. I sent out an email, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, which was to share, actually I think it was Friday, the DDC explanation for increase in disabled spaces with trustees. So I've done that, so that action's discharged. Thank you. Okay, so if we could vote to receive the action of which is now without any actions. I hope that doesn't cause any issues for anybody.
Propose that we close it down.
Yeah, somebody happy to second? Councillor Morehouse, if we could vote on that. That is unanimous.
So you proposed?
Councillor Peacock,
Thank you.
thank you. Agenda item 5, this is the opportunity for any members of the public to make representations at the meeting. Do we have any requests?
No.
No.
Chair, may I suggest that we close the door?
Yeah, happy with that.
In a sensible manner. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 6, this is finances, bank reconciliations and investment report and budget variance report. So first of all, attachment 6A, we've been asked to receive the year-to-date variance report for Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Group as of April 2025 to January 2026. This report was presented to the finance meeting on the 11th of March. Alongside this report is a narrative from the finance officer explaining the current position, which we are also being asked to note. So do we have any comments from anybody on that attachment 6A? And if not, somebody have to propose.
I'll propose it.
Councillor Black has proposed and Councillor Peacock has seconded. If we vote on that. That's unanimous. Thank you. And attachment 6B, we've been asked to receive the Quilter Cheviot Assets Management Monthly Investment Report as of the end of November and December 2025 and January and February 2026. These reports, except for the February's report, have all been received by the Finance Committee as well.
Propose noting.
So we have the second, Councillor Fortescue. The board vote on it, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Right. So the main reason we're here tonight, agenda item 8, the budget for 26-27. So the trustee has been asked to receive and approve the proposed Sandwich Tollbridge Fund and Guildhall budgets for 26.
You've missed one.
Guildhall fees.
Oh, sorry.
You're trying to outsmart Councillor Frankton,
Yeah.
that's what you're trying to do. It's not
I think I
working.
probably need AI to help me. Okay, agenda item 7, let's just move back. Stbf Guildhall fees. Attachment 7A, trustee to receive and approve the revised fees for Wedding Guildhall hires. And I'll just go on to that, because there's some relevant notes at the start. So attachment 7A, this has been reviewed by the Finance Committee. It's requested this evening that the trustee approves the new prices and the simplified pricing structure as recommended by the Assistant Clerk. This is based on her knowledge of the industry, feedback from viewings with couples, increased marketing and a decorative refresh. Do we have any comments on this that anybody would like to raise this evening? And if not,
Happy to propose the uplift.
Councillor Peacock has proposed and second, Councillor.
Do you have a question?
Yes, of course. Sorry. We'll have it.
My question is about the marketing
Yeah.
of these changes. And, I mean, we all know there are events like wedding fairs, there are church. I mean, is anything going, and obviously the website will have to be changed and beefed up. So is any of that happening as well? Do you know?
So as I understand, there's provision within the budget for 26, 27. Hopefully my memory serves me right when we come to this. I know it's definitely featured within the assistant clerk's frame of thinking is about reviewing, revisiting how we present the promotional material for the Guildhall, particularly for weddings.
Yeah.
And we've gone through a process already of looking at the packages, which is what's surmised here. But as you quite rightly say, the important thing is how we then take it out.
I think there was also,
Yes,
there
please.
was also some, there was also a new website being developed just for the marketing, and I think that might be discussed.
Yes.
Well, but I could be-
Sorry, could I just add to that? I note in the financial budget comparison report, I think it's on page 13, that £1,000 has been allocated
Yes.
for the marketing or Guildhall promotion. And so far this year we spent £90 and 77 pence.
So one thing that has happened, which is at nil cost, is the setting up of an Instagram page by the assistant clerk. So that is in already in motion and is promoting. And I do know that a lot of the stuff that she's doing herself in terms of filming events that we've had here and capturing those and sharing those through social media. So I think it's a good point to make, and maybe we need to take that into the Stbf finance meeting, maybe for a report on how the future expenditure might occur. Because obviously there'll be good reasons why she hasn't spent it, but I think we need an explanation of what will be spent in the future. Councillor Morris.
Yeah, just one question. Referring to the courtroom, is there any feedback on the issue with the bus stand being outside the courtroom? Does that attract any kind of negative comment or drop in interest?
I'm not aware of that, but could we note that to ask? So yeah, the issue is about that as an entrance point, and with it being the bus stop there, which wasn't previously the
It
case,
wasn't there.
whether it's affecting any of the conversations that have been had with potential booking.
Yes.
So ultimately, we want to get that bus stand moved.
Okay, thank you. I think that's exhausted comments on that. We already had a proposer, Councillor Carter. And did I have, was it Councillor Morehouse seconded that? If you could vote for those to be received and approved. Councillor Marie, are you happy to vote? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. And the second attachment, 7B, is for the trustee to receive and approve of revised fees for non-wedding guild hire fees. So this is a little bit more complicated in that there are a number of recommendations that we've been asked to decide. And just having a look at my notes. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things in terms of the report. So again, this has been to the Finance Committee. It's worth noting that, and the committee did agree to the new fee proposals that were put forward. The recommendations balance the need to provide a secure and safe space for events, with also the need to ensure a reasonable income is generated from bookings of the Guildhall. So we need to use that as a reference point. We have 5 recommendations to consider this evening. What I suggest is if we can go through each of them individually, in the order that they're presented in the report, and we can discuss, take any comments on each of them one by one, if that's okay. Okay. So the first recommendation, we've been asked to decide on the new Guildhall fees, non-wedding, that now include Sundays. So one of the points within the report is highlighting the fact that Sundays should be included, as it does provide The day itself provides higher opportunities, and events can be and will be booked on Sundays. So any comments on the first recommendation from the assistant clerk?
Through the property management.
Right. Any comments?
Seems suitable.
Suitable, somebody have to propose? Councillor Wiles and Councillor P. Carter seconded, we could vote on those. Thank you very much. I presume that's in support, Councillor Lee? Thank you. That's unanimous. Second recommendation to consider is decide to retain the current auxiliary charges shown on the 25-26 document. That's fairly straightforward from my perspective, but any comments?
Those continue those fees.
And Councillor Wiles has seconded. That's unanimous, thank you. Councillor Carter, Councillor Wiles, yeah, P. Carter. The third recommendation is to decide that the cost of one door supervisor will be met by the hirers for events that are for 80 plus guests where alcohol is being offered. And there is some caveats within that, but in principle, that's the recommendation. Is there comments, Councillor Lee?
Yeah, obviously, most of you attended my 40th birthday that was
Yes.
here on that Saturday evening, and we had the security guard there. It worked very well, so it was very good. So I fully support it. So I
You
propose it. Yeah,
Second
Councillor P. Carter has seconded.
I think that's a comment.
I was going to suggest you merge C and D because it's the same thing. C and D is door steward, but D is to provide exemptions to certain events. I always thought the Arts Society was a bit more riotous than that, but then.
On a good night.
On a good night.
Yeah, but we need to
Okay,
vote
fine.
as the list is.
Right, and that's which case, fine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I hope you're going to propose the next one then. So we can vote on the third one first. That's unanimous. And then Councillor Black has proposed the fourth one. I'm happy to second that one. If we vote on that, that's carried unanimously. And the final one is decide on the introduction of the steward scheme. Any comments on
I
that?
think it's a good idea. It's worked for the larger events like the weddings and that. And I think it should be adopted across the board.
Agree?
Someone's
Proposed.
proposed.
Councillor Di Maria's. Councillor Marie. The vote on that. Again, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I was going to be excited about the budget for next year, so now we move on to agenda
I was
items.
going to say you're a bit too excited this evening.
So we've been asked to consider the proposed Tollbridge Fund and Guildhall budgets for 26-27 as opposed to 25-26 as recommended by the Finance Committee. So from my perspective, it has been through the Finance Committee at least once, if not twice, but it's possible that others will have comments. But what,
May I correct something? The
Yes,
one
please.
thing that wasn't discussed in, when this was presented to the Finance Committee was the extra 10K for us. But that's the only item that wasn't discussed and taken forward at the Finance Committee.
Yeah.
It's a point of clarification.
No, that's valid, and I've asked the Finance Officer to cover that in this discussion because that has influenced what's presented here this evening. So, John, could I ask you maybe to give an introduction, some clear points around it before we open it up for discussion?
Absolutely, because I know there's obviously a lot of numbers there, and I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. I'd like really just to look at the sheet which has the 4 columns on it, or the 4 sections on it, because it gives the overall trust situation, and then Stbf, the Guildhall, and the museum as 3 separate entities with elements of the entire trust group. And first of all, my apologies. It's been brought to my attention that the second column for each of the 3 entities, I've actually put down the same year, 25-26, but there should be 26-27. So where you, on the overall for the trust group, it's correct. but I didn't copy it over. I've done so many incarnations of this, and I've just missed that, so I do apologise. So where you have Stbf and Guildhall and Museum, the second column is for 26-27. That helps. So just to run through these figures, because it can be quite complicated looking at everything that's going on here. We've got the contribution that's been made by the council, which is for towards the Guildhall, which is still happening, which is £137,000. That is included. That's £130,000, the same as last year, and there's £7,000, which is the
Carry on.
keep going. £7,000, which represents 25% of the utilities for the STC maintenance. So that £137,000 is still being made as a contribution at the moment, and coming in as income. It doesn't show in the trust group's overall figures because one of the things that's been identified is that the payroll or the staffing costs for the trust doesn't employ anyone, and we've always shown that they did. So where we previously had the budget meeting set up for the payroll costs, those costs are still the same, but we can't show it as payroll in the trust. We have to show it as a management charge. So it just comes across in a different way, and it's complicated. So the overall payroll costs, which have been borne on the trust group, are the same as what was proposed way back at the original meeting. Nothing has changed with that, but there is money being paid towards the trust, and then the trust has to pay some money back for their element of the staff costs. Whereas previously, in years gone by, we would have just charged the trust with the actual payroll costs. I hope that makes sense. It didn't sound that clear when I said it, but that's the story behind that. So there's nothing different happening there. It is the same cost being borne. The overall, if I take the museum element, the museum was a budget that was proposed by the museum manager. She put the figures together with all of her experience before she left, and those figures have remained unchanged from all the prior finance meetings that we've had. The only thing that is substantially different in there is the fact that we're now showing the actual cost of that staff that they actually use, so the resources that they use, because previously we were never showing that within there. So that's the only difference. As far as the Guildhall is concerned, we have tried to create an uplift for the higher charges where we believe we can actually target that, where the investment in marketing, etc., is going to generate more money coming in on the Guildhall side of it, so we can maximise that aspect of it as far as possible. There are things happening. I mean, the Guildhall tours, for example, there's the third line down on the Guildhall budget. The Guildhall tours, it's something that's just about to start, and that's going to be a lot more than that in the coming year. So there are things happening. There is marketing going on, and there are events happening which will actually generate more income, because we just need to make that aspect of it work as well as possible. We've got normalised uplifts for things such as the indoor markets. You can see there's just a 10% increase on what was done on the previous year. I think it will be probably or possibly a bit more than that, but we have to be realistic and not. We can't speculate too much on what might happen. It has to be relatively realistic. And then in the overheads for the Guildhall, most of them are, as before, the management charges represents the cost of payroll that was signed off back in the meeting back in September, I believe, when it was proposed, and that includes the contractors. one of the things that the property manager has done, he has tried to make the balance between our external contractors and our actual staffing more effective, so that we don't have people who are here when there's nothing going on. And that was one of the things that probably took place last year. And we've been able to streamline the staffing costs overall. Overall, for the whole of the group, there's been no increase in the staffing costs because we think we can run it in a leaner way. The only way that will change is if our bookings go so well that we have to recruit more in the way of security. And obviously that will be a positive thing because we're recharging that as per the discussion a short while ago. So at the moment, I think it's pretty much covering itself and it balances out. The biggest cost that really impacts the Guildhall is the repairs and maintenance. It's shown under a heading of contingencies. And also you'll see under there that there is a marketing budget, which was just spoken about just now, which again, it's needed to generate the bookings and the high charges. But the repairs and the maintenance is the largest cost there. I don't know whether the schedule of repairs was put into this meeting again. I can't see it attached here, so I suspect not. Obviously, but it's not in my
No,
I think
it was a late issue.
so that's the breakdown of the maintenance that was agreed at the prior meeting for what's taking place. It's the single largest cost. We obviously have to look after the assets. It's one of the most important things. Whether it's been underinvested in the past or not is not really the question here. It's just about making sure that we obviously do what needs doing now. And there's been a lot of money being spent recently on things such as the roof and the pointing to stop anything deteriorating, because obviously the Guildhall is a substantial asset to the trust. So whilst it shows under contingencies, let me just explain that because it sounds strange. When the original budget was put together, that obviously we go out to everyone and ask for pro formas and the what we want to spend money on type of things. And some of these things came from the councillors, some of them came from that will effectively become normal expenditure overheads for the business once they've been passed and agreed. So it's just, the heading is strange, but that will change when we roll forward into the new year. And the moving on then to the Stbf, the main income that comes in there is from the car park and from the revenue that comes from the investments. We've obviously just had a meeting just recently about those investments. Now with the car park, that is based upon what was realised in this last year. So we would hope to achieve a similar thing. The biggest challenge with the car parking is the cost of Dover District Council's costs of running that, because the income has gone up substantially, but the costs of them collecting monies and collecting parking has also gone up substantially. I think it's almost 40% of what the take is, which is quite astounding, really. But we don't have any control over that in the current agreement, but that is up for discussion, I think, over the course of the next 12 months as to what happens going forward. So we expect to get a similar level of money coming in on the car park at the moment. And then we've got the revenue coming in from the sports centre and the cinema. We've not shown any substantial growth on that. It's really just been uplifted for the elements of insurance. I imagine there's been many discussions about issues with the rates that we charge at those places. It's a complicated area at the moment. And the sports centre itself, I think, is in need of a lot of work as well going forward, which may be an issue. But based upon what we did last year, the income that's projected to come in from that is fairly realistic. And then there is nothing else substantially there until we get down to the quarter chevia and the interest and dividends. The interest from dividends on the QC investments is what we're projecting, or what we estimate we will get in the next year. It was substantially up this year. We're budgeting 48. We will get more than 60. We may or may not do better than that next year. It's speculation. We've gone on the basis that it will be £60,000 on the basis of trying not to draw down the monies too early in the year so that we get maximum return on the capital. And so that's the reason behind that. But the drawdown on the investments, I know that this has been a bit of a moot point for some people in the past because it's drawing on what the funds are worth. It's just what's been required in past years. I don't necessarily agree with it. We need to take that away and we need to generate incomes in other ways so that we aren't drawing on that in the future. But at the moment, the requirement is there. And that requirement is just to balance the books for the trust. It's nothing to do with anyone else. It's nothing to do with the council. We can't be talking about what the council contributes because that's already been discussed and agreed. This is about what was proposed in October and November meetings as the requirement to make this balance. And up until the meeting that took place a week or so ago, this was all balanced, this budget. But then the proposal was to put in this provision of £10,000 for the governance and reorganisation and the discussion and the legal costs of that, which I completely understand. So I was asked to incorporate that into the figures as well, following the last finance meeting. And that means that we've moved from a situation where we were in a balanced budget to a budget which is now showing negative £7,000. Now, I don't like putting forward a negative budget, but last year the budget that was put forward was a negative £18,000. What that means is that the budget is proposing that it's going to draw on some of the reserves, some of the cash funds that are in the business already to fund itself, because the money has to come from somewhere. If we are able to grow the revenues more than we're projecting, there'll be less of a requirement for that, and that will be the win. And we won't need to do that. But at the moment, that is what we would need to do to make this work. As I say, I don't like budgets should be in balance. That's how they should be. But there's no official requirement as long as you've got the funds to back it up. And that's how the budget process works. I could amend this and say contribution from reserves, £7,000, we'd all balance. But it just shows the workings and how it's actually all brought together. So, as I say, it's, from my point of view, it's unfortunate, but I understand the need for it. It was discussed that we needed to bring in this provision of 10,000, and for that reason, it has made the budget that I've proposed now negative £7,000. I think. Sorry. So I've just checked if anything else I need to raise. I think possibly not. I think I've covered all the points that I put in there. Yeah. So this is the budget that we're proposing. As I say, it has been by the finance committees.
Yeah, and I'd just add that the 10,000 was actually agreed by the full trustee, not just at finance level. So it has been here, and it was a decision that was made. So that's why it's now reflected in here, and why this has had to be updated as a result.
Yes.
Okay, can I open up for any questions or observations? Councillor Moore.
Yes, referring to Stbf column, you put down there property rent. You put sports centre and cinema. Could I suggest, for the sake of clarification, St Peter's Day Hall or the Fitness Connection? Because people may well associate sports centre with the leisure centre at the suggested too.
Take that on board.
The other questions that I have, referring to the administration costs, which have substantially reduced, is there a reason behind it?
Which, sorry?
Administration costs. So if you look in Stbf,
It's probably best to look at the overall group figure,
right?
Because what was done in the past has changed. For example, the staffing costs for the museum, was a chain museum. So if you take the trust group column at the end, the administration costs were 27 and they're now 24. So yes, there has been a reduction. I think that's the point you're raising. That is just because we're targeting savings. Some of those savings are in just the way that we've done things in the past. And I've tried to. Part of the difficulty I had coming in and looking at the budgets was that I had no history, and so I had to look at it from scratch and try and build it back up, and without the experience and the knowledge of what's gone on in the past. So that's the approach that I've taken, and I've just thought, well, we're not going to have that this year, or that will be a waste this year, and that's been called out. It doesn't show fine detail, because I think that to do that, when we started off, it did. I did I think a report that's the budget report that comes from the software is horrible, because it's like many pages long and it's very convoluted and it's difficult to follow, and that's another problem to be solved at some stage. So this is really a summary of what those costs come to, and it just means that we're not throwing in lots of the administration of the staff, lots of car parking, lots of the parking permits, because we're not employing staff here. We can't have a lot of HR costs here. We can't have a lot of other costs here that are associated with that. They are borne by the employer, and the employer is the council. So that's part of the reason, but not the whole. It's just trying to cut things down.
And the increase in the parking revenue, is that taking into account the DDC increase in parking?
So the 33,000, if you look at what happened in 25-20 this year, the year that went finished, we're showing 20,000 that was put in the budget, but we actually had £33,000 come in. So, so I've actually put in what we actually made last year. That is taken into account. That is net of the 40% collection costs that they imposed. So the monies that the collections, the actual monies that came in from parking tickets and things like that was much higher. And it's just that the collection costs that they imposed on us for it, for people going around town. And
Is there any projected in administration costs, collection costs, in this forthcoming year?
So I've just based it upon the same. We've got that much last year. That was, I hope if we can get the same this year, then that's keeping it at a level. I'm not speculating that it'll be higher. It could be.
What concerns me is the parking charges going up.
Mhm.
Would the collection costs go up in line with the parking charge?
Well, we'll do when it's 40%.
Yeah, so it's a formula approach that's applied, and what the finance officer is saying is that he's used the net figure that we've achieved in the current year and put it into the budget for next year, which I think is a reasonably safe one. But as you say, the fees have gone up. But secondly, we are also looking at what we want to do about the lease arrangements in any case, which will have a factor around finances as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the calculation is probably not in our best interest, in the sense that we're paying for all their staff to wander around the whole of the town to collect parking tickets. He's only got to have one person spend a tiny amount of time at this car park to check the revenues that we're taking. And we don't get any of the revenues for anyone that doesn't pay, gets the parking fine. So there's that aspect of it. I would hope that their staffing costs have not gone through the roof, and that's not going to be a massive uplift. But that's the only thing that we don't know, how much they're spending on it. We don't get any visibility on that.
But we still only pay a percentage.
Yes.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter
whether they cut the costs, their costs, or their costs go up.
Yes.
We pay a percentage. It's a formula approach.
Oh yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask about the uplift on the utilities, John. So, what formula did you use for the uplift on the utilities? Because some years we have been caught out where the utilities have actually skyrocketed.
So, and this is the risk always. One of the things when I started, there were some of our utilities were out of contract, which meant that we were paying too much. So we've now got those into a contracted price, which means that obviously it's just saving rather than being the top rated price. One of the areas being, well, they're just what's happening. So it's just trying to keep on top of that. I think it's hopefully when we're making savings. Even with water, you can actually contract that with other people who will give you like a 3% saving on what you did before. Now there will be obviously all the pressures pushing in our direction, and our friends overseas who are trying to fight and everything. I'm not doing us any favours with that. And when I did this, I don't think what the US are doing at the moment was even being considered. They were avoiding getting involved with things rather than getting involved, and now that's changed. So it may well be that will get challenged. You know, that will be a challenge to meet those costs. But it's difficult to know. This was set back in October time, and when I did it for the whole of the group, of course. And so times have changed. So it's a fair point. We may get caught short on it. The only thing I can say is that we've got to just try and make the other things work better if that's the case.
And we've got the contingency budget.
Yes.
I'm happy to propose.
So we've still got more comments coming
Yeah, John, I think you've done a great job getting your head around all of the aspects and the issues associated with the toll bridge fund and the complexity that it has. And this is why we're looking into the relationship between the toll bridge fund and the council, because it's really complex. Whilst I'm kind of on board with the numbers, the way the budget that we've got before us is presented gives me certain areas where I feel uncomfortable. And for instance, Councillor Morehouse mentioned administration. If we just look at the 4 columns for under administration for the museum, the budget is £1,110. For the Guildhall, it's £500, £1,600. For the toll bridge fund, it's £10. But then when you look at the trust group, it's £24,000. So the way these things are rolling across don't make me feel comfortable. If I look, I see insurance premiums, and I see £28,000 of insurance premiums for Guildhall, but I don't see any insurance premiums for the museum.
Yes.
Why would that be? Because we've got a lot of valuable assets in the museum, so the budget for the museum as presented isn't reflected.
That's a very valid point.
Okay, I've got quite a few other things, like there are no bank charges. There are bank charges for the Guildhall and there are bank charges for the toll bridge fund, but there's no bank charges for the museum. The utilities, there's no bank charges or no utility charges for the museum. So I think the way these costs are grouped, and some of them you've kind of rolled up, and I think you need to be kind of clear about those. You mentioned in your kind of commentary about the contribution from Sandwich Town Council, and that you've got to note the trust benefits from a £137,000 contribution from the taxpayer towards the running of the Guildhall. Sandwich Town Council is joint and severally liable for the Guildhall. It's not a contribution, it's an obligation. And I would also say, you mentioned £7,000 for the utilities. Sandwich Town Council has got to pay 50% for the repairs.
Right.
So, and the way the budget is presented, you've taken that £137,000 and you've deducted it from the Sandwich Town Council management charges, which impinges on the actual staffing costs and so forth. So whilst I've got agreement with the kind of the overall numbers, and yes, we do need to try and reconcile it, one of the other big things, the plan is to increase revenue from assets and to reduce the capital drawdown. I think we need to reduce costs. not the capital drawdown. You know, the capital drawdown is not a hole in the wall where we can just go and take money out because the budget doesn't balance. We've got to work. And yes, there are areas where the car parking revenue might go up or our marketing costs might go down or whatever. So, and I know when we work to pull the budget together, this concept of contingencies, but I think it's misrepresentative to put down repairs and maintenance and the marketing and the refresh, the repairs and the upgrade of the Guildhall as contingency items. So whilst that was correct as the process, it shouldn't be part of the budget and that we have here for governance and for control mechanism and for coding up. So I am not in favour of the budget as it's presented. I think we can do a bit more work to polish it so it's a bit more fit for purpose. But in terms of the overall numbers, I'm relatively comfortable. But the rest of it, I'm uncomfortable. And I hope you understand it. And I'm not trying to be critical because it's just, and I apologise, I wasn't at a couple of the meetings. I wasn't available in the last couple of meetings.
Can I come back on what your points you've raised?
By all means.
Yeah, thanks. So, I take on board what you say now. The meetings that these budgets were proposed to were October and November, and you were at the meetings.
Yeah.
Those were the meetings where we sat and discussed everything that were in the figures, and those were the meetings where everyone agreed that the figures were fine, and you raised at the time that you weren't too happy with the contribution that was being made, and wanted the drawdown to be less than what it was before. These are all minuted, and that was what was discussed before. So I take that on board, I understand that, but I know that that was what your concern was how much we were drawing down from those savings. But as far as those figures were concerned, we discussed them all in detail at that meeting, and these points weren't raised at that particular meeting. We've now come forward, and the only thing that's changed is that we've been asked to put another £10,000 on it. And so I understand what you're saying. I understand that some clarity can be brought to figures. Completely acknowledge that. One of the areas that you raised was on the insurance. Now, at the moment, the insurance is sitting in Stbf. It's sitting there as a premium. Now, a lot of the costs weren't being shown for the museum in the past. Now, one of the things that I picked up on was the staffing, but you're correct. The insurance premium for the museum should also be there. As far as the actual budget for the overall Stbf trust is concerned, no change to the figures. It's paying the insurance premium for everything that's going on there, plus what's going on in the museum. That's the overall picture. That's what they're paying the premium for. We have that as a separate quote that comes in the insurance. It gets split in that way. What it doesn't show is it under the museum, and that's because for some reason we just weren't showing the costs in the past. And that would be my question to why weren't we showing the costs in the past?
I agree, and I would also say that many of the assets in the museum are owned by Sandwich Town Council. The Magna Carta, for instance, was there before the Toll Bridge Fund came. Mm-hmm. So why should the Toll Bridge Fund pay for the insurance of the Magna Carta? Well, there are lots of issues.
That's for the asset management, I would imagine, rather than for this particular thing. As long as it's undercover and being protected in the interest of the residents and the town of Sandwich is the most important thing, and it is being covered under that. So that would be the comment I'd make with that. But I'm just trying to think of the other bits and pieces that you said.
Administration was another one.
The administration, the way it comes across, I understand that the clarity is not there, and it's because of how I've taken the lines across. I can restate that. It won't change the figures. I can restate it for that purpose. The fact that we're showing something under contingencies, I think, is entirely correct at this particular stage until it is agreed. Because it's not contingencies, it is the pro formas and contingencies. It was the proposed costs that were brought forward by councillors and by my colleagues in the office. And so they, going through the process, if they were either accepted or rejected, and I think about £50,000 or £60,000 were rejected at the time because it would have had a massively different budget if we'd accepted what everyone wanted to spend money on. And the onus has been on trying to make things balance, and it balances, subject to the most recent cost that's been brought in. And I take on board exactly what you're saying with the clarity on the lines, and I can sort that out next time and go through it with you, perhaps tomorrow, when you're in, if that
In a
helps.
week,
So it reassures you from that point of view. I don't think what it's going to do is change the overall picture for what we're budgeting for the trust to be generating as revenues, and what we're budgeting for what it's going to be paying out in expenses. And they are captured within it, and it's more accurate than it was in previous years, because some of the costs weren't shown. And it may not be at the moment, but as I say, this is my first run at it, and this has been sitting dormant effectively since October, I'll be honest, because we pushed the council business and things like that, first of all, because of the deadlines with that, and it's just kind of sat there dormant, and I could tidy it up at any particular point to give you that reassurance.
I apologise, I didn't raise all of these things earlier,
No, it's absolutely fine.
Pressure
It was just a
pressure
feeling
work.
that we hadn't had a chance to discuss it. We've been through 2 meetings and discussed it, and I'm happy to anyone to tear the figures to pieces. But that's what the process of the meetings is for, that we sit there, go through, discuss it, don't like that, John, take it back, bring it back again. And that's what that process is, I would assume, I don't know, but that's probably best how it works. So
could I just interpret what I think I'm hearing? I'm hearing from the finance officer that he's confident in terms of what's presented. I think I'm hearing from the council agreeing that the content with the top level view, that there may be some cleaning up that needs to be done. What we've been asked to do tonight is to approve the budget. Now, the detail, if there's an opportunity between the two of you to modify the presentation so that what we then file with the Charity Commission and what we put onto our website is better in terms of clarity, are you comfortable with that?
Very much so.
because the reporting system gives huge amount more detail, and it will be very different. So that will be what we will actually put up in those figures.
That's why it's so important to have the overall structure of the budget and the coding correct, so that we can.
What I would ask is, assuming we are going to vote and approve it, if we are, that we come back to the next STBF with the outcome of those discussions, so we don't just lose that, we actually bring it back with clarity and explanation. Okay, so that's an action. Any other comments on the budget?
I'm happy to propose acceptance. I do want it noted that I think the RFO's done an excellent job with a very difficult IT system that he didn't choose, and by inheriting a large number of issues that Councillor Green has raised, but they're historic legacy issues, most of them.
Yeah, so I endorse what you've just said there, Councillor Carter.
Happy to second?
Yeah.
Councillor White has seconded. If we take a vote on the budget. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, John, very much for attending this meeting, for presenting the budget for next year, and maybe do it again at some point in the future. I'm sure you've enjoyed yourself. So, final item, agenda item 9. So the date of the next meeting is Monday, the 15th of June, 2026 at 7 p.m. Meeting closed. Thank you. See you tomorrow night.
Yes, 6 o'clock. Oh, don't forget photos to.
Yes. Yeah.